Fear is the popular 90s thriller starring Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon about a possessive boyfriend who wreaks havoc in a young girl's life. Fear is an enigma. It was directed by someone whose main claim to fame up to that point was directing Madonna's music videos and starred a former Calvin Klein model and is currently sitting at 46% on Rotten Tomatoes. Like on paper, it just seems like a generic Lifetime movie of the week, but people went nuts for this thing back in the day. It's just so weird. It's not terrible. It's also not that good, but everyone knows about the movie Fear. Fear centers around the Walker family, which consists of teenager Nicole, her stepbrother Toby, Toby, buddy, that's enough with the dog whistle, bud, Nicole's stepmom Laura, and her father Steve Walker, played by William Peterson. And Nicole and Steve have a pretty typical, shaky father-daughter relationship.
I don't think there's a thing that's ever happened, or not happened for that matter, that I don't remember.
Okay, Nicole is claiming to have an eidetic memory, which has been proven to not exist, so she's really just lying to her father. Is she supposed to be the hero here? Because she just broke the 5th and 9th commandment. Is the fear in the title the fear of going to hell? Because that's where Nicole is headed. Nicole and her friends Gary and Margot skip school to go to a hip club downtown.
Smoked turkey and good on a roll?
To go.
Oh, I'm sorry, hip club / deli? And while there, Nicole immediately falls for David, who's played by Donnie Wahlberg's hamburger aficionado brother, Marky. That night, the family is supposed to see James Taylor in concert, but Steven gets called to Vancouver to meet with a client.
You could keep your word to your family is what you could do.
Oh yeah, and then we could just all starve to death.
From everything I can gather in this movie, Steven is insanely wealthy. I don't think they're gonna starve. Everyone is upset, but now they don't have to go see James Taylor. Like, they all dodged a bullet. Nicole calls up Margot to go to a non-deli club to go see a band play. And I must be getting old because this just looks awful. Like, where's the fire exit? I'd be the guy just off to the side, and if anyone from my group came in to check in on me, I'd just scream, "It's just noise!" Margot goes to hit on David's friend, while Nicole finds a nice pole to stand by. Yeah! Nicole is then approached by bad boy David McCall, and they hit it off right away.
We're not dancing.
I know. You aren't either. How come?
How come what?
So I think Mark Wahlberg just has a fear of speaking on camera. In real life, this conversation would be even more awkward because they wouldn't be able to hear anything the other one said anyways. And David's shitty friend starts a fight and the whole club clears out, and David ushers Nicole out of there and takes her somewhere to talk.
Isn't this the car they stopped making because it, I don't know, it blows up or something?
I guess that's why I got her. I saw her sitting there all alone, cold in the junkyard. No, it's not her fault I didn't put her together right.
Yeah, totally. But seriously, isn't this like the car that blows up?
You just said that like you really meant it.
Yeah, he did say it like he really meant it. And that should be your first major red flag, Nicole. Maybe not that he's a psycho, but he's definitely boring as shit.
What?
Nothing?
There was nothing going on behind those beautiful eyes of yours.
So David lays on the charm. I think it is very difficult to hear him.
It's just that I was taught that if something seems too good to be true, then it probably isn't. So far, what I know about you is you're beautiful.
Yeah, there's no way in hell she heard him talking in the club. Crickets are drowning him out. David keeps her out past curfew, and Nicole and Laura get into it when she gets home.
Take off your makeup, you look like a slut.
Oh! Not earned any stepmom points today. Shit. So the next week, David picks up Nicole from school to take her to the same weird little sandwich bar that he always goes to. And Nicole is extremely excited because to a teenage girl, this is the pinnacle of awesomeness. So things are getting serious between David and Nicole, and he asks to meet her family. And David lays on the charm pretty thick, and everyone falls for it except Steven, because he's the only one who hasn't suffered a traumatic brain injury, apparently. And then David and Nicole go out for a night on the town, and this is one of the classiest scenes in the whole movie. Like, it really captures young love. David and Nicole stealing glances at one another and finding every opportunity they can for a warm embrace as wild horses play and these two get lost in each other's eyes the way that only two young lovers ever could. There's just such an innocence to it. And then David Nicole on a roller coaster. Like I said, classy. And the next day, David goes to pick her up, and he sees Gary giving her a hug, and he runs over and beats the shit out of him, and Nicole gets a black eye in the process, and she screams at him to leave her alone. That's strike one, bud.
You got a black eye in gym class, so I gave her a makeup lesson. So she wouldn't look like a slut.
Ah, Laura, Yeah, let's not make that a family, like, inside joke. And at school, David leaves a note in Nicole's locker to meet him at the Largo, but she stands him up. Hey man, can I get you anything else? Yeah, brother. I'll take another one of these beers, and maybe one of those delicious bear claws that have been calling my name since I walked in here. Nicole finally tells her parents what David did to Gary, and it seems like it's over. But when Steven says that he never really liked David, then Nicole says that she hasn't ruled out getting back together with him. Steven, really fumbled the ball on that one. But hopefully her best friend Margot can set her straight. Best friends hate abusive boyfriends.
So he hit you. Sometimes that's just their asshole way of showing they love you.
Okay, I don't know, maybe try the doomed security guard? He seems nice, and helping out a young girl will be a great final act in his life, because the clock is ticking for this poor son of a bitch. David shows up to apologize to Nicole.
It came from me feeling like I'd do anything to protect you.
From Gary?
I didn't know it was Gary. I swear, all I saw was some guy with his paws all over you. I'm knowing how many bad guys are out there.
I should know, because they all live in my house. Nicole's dumb, and she falls for David's shit. And Steven has to come home to see David manhandling his wife by the pool, and then taunting him with his weird Marky Mark smooches on his daughter. Like, Marky, let's not gum her face, please. That is strike 2, sir. You know what happens at strike 3. Steven does some digging and finds out that David was in an orphanage until he was 18, and since then there's been no record of him whatsoever. So Steven goes to confront him and tells him to stay away from his daughter. And so Steven threatens him and drives away, and we get one of... I don't want to say one of the most memorable scenes of all time, but I would think a vast majority know about this scene when David begins beating on his chest over and over again. David shows Nicole the bruises and tells her that Steven gave them to him, and she drives off with David and they have sex. David drops her back off at home, but she takes her car back over to David's and witnesses David forcing Margot to have sex with him. That is strike 3, sir, and I think you know what happens at strike 4. And she races back home and she's finally done with David, at least until he whispers some garbage to her like, "You have to take me back, Nicole. My heart is being torn into 1,000 pieces by a pack of wild dogs. And I saw sunset today. It's the most beautiful sunset I've ever seen, but it's nothing compared to you." The next day at school, David shows up and Nicole freaks out and Gary steps in.
No, why? You hurt her, David. Just let it go.
Oh no, Gary. We've all been in that situation where we try to do the right thing, but then immediately regret it. Like, that's the face. Margot shows up to Nicole's house, and Nicole confronts her and storms off. But, Nicole knows how dangerous David is, and she saw David threatening Margot into having sex with her. That's strike 1, Nicole.
You're my only friend!
Oh, poor Gary. Oh, that's strike 1, Margot. The next day at school, David again witnesses Nicole hugging Gary, and oof. Poor Gary. He's dead and he doesn't even know it. So after school, Gary takes a shortcut through the woods, and this seems like a dangerous idea for Gary even on a normal day. And David shows up, and Gary, God bless him, makes a run for it. But he is in no physical condition to be outrunning anybody. Poor gangly bastard. Yep, that's me. Name's Gary. You're probably wondering how I got here. Well, you see, I made the mistake of making direct eye contact with a psychopath. And then David destroys Steven's car to force him into a final showdown, like he's David Caruso or some shit. And so Steven goes to David's house to trash the place, but it looks like someone beat him to it. And David and his crew roll up on Nicole's house and begin the night of terror. And so they cut the phone line, but Steven designed the house to be a fortress, and no one can get in without the code.
David's got the code.
Well, you're all dead.
They're gonna kill us. Just like they can kill us.
I mean, if you're lucky. Gary went quick, but now they're high and pissed off.
What's out there? Here. Security will come. Larry will come.
Why would you lead that sweet man to his death? Poor son of a bitch. He's probably Gary's dad. Oh my God, his name's Larry. Gary, Larry. Oh, poor Mary. That's Larry's wife and Gary's mother. So now they have Steven hostage and they make their way back to the house. And Toby goes out to the car to use the car phone, and we discover that Toby is the most sadistic motherfucker in this whole movie. You're a freak, Toby. And damn, yeah, Toby has the same body count as David in this movie. Oh, never mind. David's back in the lead. Come on, Toby, step it up, bud. Steven manages to get free, and he and David begin to fight, and then Steven chucks David out the window to his death. Yup, that's me. You may be wondering how I found myself in this situation. I was just trying to be a good boyfriend. That's all I was trying to do. You know, I would never do anything to hurt Nicole intentionally. But her dad, Steven, he didn't like me right from the beginning. You know, he always thought I was a real mook. I was just trying to do my best. You know, I grew up without parents. You know, that's tough right there. I didn't have the best friend group. And I swear, when I killed Gary, I didn't know it was him. I love Gary. Why would I have killed Gary? None of this makes any sense.